Compact phones seem to have made a resurgence in popularity, but Sony has been there all along with their Xperia 5 series. This is their new Xperia 5 Mark IV, and it's launching later this month. So what does the Xperia 5 Mark IV bring to the table, and could this be the compact flagship to get this year? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our full review. It's been more than a year since we saw the previous model come out, the Xperia 5 Mark III, and the Mark IV looks to improve upon it in nearly every way. It upgrades the screen, the chipset performance, the camera tech, and battery capacity, and it has even shrunk in size to be just a little bit more compact. Design-wise, Sony is sticking to a no-nonsense look that's very similar to the previous model, except that the new one is a tad shorter and narrower. The flat back is made of Gorilla Glass Victus, and is covered with a frosted matte finish that helps to hide fingerprints. The matte aluminum frame is flat too. You also get a Sony signature feature, a two-step hardware shutter key for the cameras. The Xperia 5 Mark IV is just as dust-resistant and waterproofed as the rest of the series, with an IP65/IP68 rating. Like last year, the Xperia 5 Mark IV's display is a 6.1-inch OLED with a 1080p resolution, a tall 21:9 aspect ratio, and a fast 120Hz refresh rate. And as an upgrade to last year, there's Gorilla Glass Victus protection here as well. Another improvement is the brightness. The numbers depend on the color mode, but we were able to achieve a maximum of 660 nits with the manual slider, and this boosts to almost 1000 nits in auto mode, a huge jump from the previous model. The screen is quite sharp at almost 450 ppi, and has great contrast thanks to the OLED technology. There's support for 10-bit color, and the color options here are really in-depth. You can achieve great color accuracy if you dive into them. And there's support for HDR10, as well as a feature that can uplift SDR content to HDR in real time. Where the Xperia 5 Mark IV does fall behind some competitors is the refresh rate handling. The 120Hz does a great job in smoothing out motion on the screen, and it is adaptive to save energy, but it won't go lower than 60Hz. For audio, Sony has included a traditional headphone jack here, great considering that with a small device, space is at a premium. There's also a pair of front-facing stereo speakers. They're well balanced and earned a mark of good in our loudness test. The sound quality is great too, with well-presented vocals and highs, and more bass than last year's model. For biometrics, the Xperia 5 Mark IV has a side-mounted fingerprint reader and is fast and reliable. And the Xperia 5 Mark IV comes with 128 gigs of storage on board, and that is expandable through microSD card. Like Sony's other recent phones, the interface is Android 12, with a Sony skin and a few proprietary Sony features on top. Not a lot has changed here. You get the SideSense menu, which can hold shortcuts to apps or features. There's a game enhancer which allows you to create custom profiles for individual titles. And Sony's Music Pro app is a paid service that allows you to record singing and instruments and upload this recording for professional quality processing within the cloud. And you can't forget Sony's extensive suite of camera apps, which are the same here as what you'd find on the Xperia 1 Mark IV. The default camera app is Photo Pro. It provides your typical options for shooting both stills and video. It is feature-packed, and if you dig into the menus, the app includes plenty of manual options as well. Then there's the Cinema Pro app. It allows you to create separate video projects, and you have plenty of in-depth controls to play with, including shooting in 4K at 120 FPS. All of the videos from this app come out in a cinematic 21:9 aspect ratio. One of Cinema Pro's more useful features is the ability to rack focus between preset focus distances, with control over the duration of the transition. Finally, there's the Video Pro app. Like Cinema Pro, it offers more controls over the regular Photo Pro app, but here the footage doesn't need to be color graded afterwards. Powering all of these features is a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset. It's not the latest Plus version you'd find on some other newly released flagships, but it's still flagship grade, and is a solid upgrade over last year's Snapdragon 888. In benchmarks, the performance of the Xperia 5 Mark IV is excellent. It's one of the more powerful smartphones on the market, and the phone should be able to handle everything you throw at it. Unfortunately, when it comes to thermal management, Sony hasn't impressed this year, either with its Xperia 1 Mark IV or here with the Xperia 5. In our stress tests, the phone would throttle significantly within just a few minutes, down to around half of its peak performance. Now let's talk battery life. The Xperia 5 Mark IV brings a larger 5000 mAh battery compared to last year's 4500. As a result, battery life is significantly better this time around, with an overall endurance rating of 116 hours in our tests. The charging rate is still 30 watts, but this year you don't get an adapter in the box, or even a cable, so you need to have a set from before, order from Sony, or use a third-party one with USB power delivery. Overall, the Xperia 5 Mark IV's charging speed is decent, but nothing too exciting. We were able to charge it from 0 to 45% in half an hour. There's now also support for wireless charging too. The Xperia 5 Mark IV shares 2 of its 3 rear cameras with the Xperia 1 model, the 12-megapixel main cam and 12-megapixel ultra-wide. What's different is the 12-megapixel telephoto, which has a 2.5 times zoom, without fancy extra steps or continuous zoom. It does come with OIS though. During the day, the main camera captures excellent photos with an incredibly natural look. There's a lot of detail, low noise, and balanced sharpness. The contrast is great, and the colors look lively yet realistic. The dynamic range is wide, but it keeps shadows a bit darker and natural looking. Even though the ultra-wide camera supports autofocus, the auto mode prefers taking macro shots with the main cam, and those are really good, with outstanding detail and just the right amount of sharpness. Portrait photos from the main camera are great. The subjects are detailed, sharp, and well exposed. The separation is proficient, and the adjustable blur is likable. The telephoto camera also offers good portrait shots, but they aren't quite as good as the ones from the main camera due to the smaller sensor and darker lens. The telephoto doesn't have different zoom steps like on previous Xperia 1 and Xperia 5 models, but we didn't miss that function very much. The photos aren't quite as detailed as the main cams, but they're still quite nice, with the right amount of sharpness, superb contrast, accurate colors, and good but not over-the-top dynamic range. The ultra-wide camera is impressive. Its photos are rich in detail, with great-looking centers and enough sharpness in the corners too. Colors are accurate, contrast is excellent, and the dynamic range is balanced. In low light, the main cam produces very good photos with a reasonable level of detail, low noise, excellent contrast, and a realistic look. The colors are a bit on the punchy side, but excellent. Thanks to HDR, light sources are well contained. However, these dark shadows could have benefited immensely from some sort of a night mode processing. The zoom camera does quite alright at night. Photos we took in scenes with sufficient light came out plenty good, with more than enough detail, good sharpness, accurate colors, and better than expected dynamic range. The low-light photos we took with the ultra-wide camera are nice, but the wider field of view means you end up with large areas of overly dark shadows. The images are otherwise detailed, and the color saturation is great, but the absence of a night mode is felt even stronger here. These photos are far from competitive. The 12-megapixel front-facing cam is a nice upgrade over last year. Selfies are outstanding. They're probably some of the most detailed we've seen in a while, and there's balanced sharpness, realistic colors, and lovely dynamic range. When it comes to video recording, the Xperia 5's performance is pretty much in line with what we observed with this year's Xperia 1. You can record in up to 4K at 120 FPS with all rear cameras, and the audio quality is superb. 4K footage from the main camera is excellent, featuring the same natural-looking rendition as the still photos. The detail level is good, and there's nice contrast and dynamic range, and low noise. There's a new mode this year called Wide Dynamic Range. It combines multiple frames to provide a boost in the contrast, and you get fewer clipped highlights, but shadows look darker for some reason. It's best used on a tripod too because there's no video stabilization with this option on. We really like the 4K videos shot with the telephoto camera. These are detailed, with balanced sharpness, low noise, and a natural look. The dynamic range is great and the noise is quite low. The 4K videos shot on the ultra-wide camera are impressive. The detail level is excellent for this sort of camera, and you get great contrast and natural processing. Also notable is the good sharpness throughout the frame. Finally, the low-light videos from the main camera are okay. The detail is enough, the noise is tolerable, and the colors and exposure are realistic looking. So that's the Xperia 5 Mark IV. Sony has done a great job providing some nice improvements over the previous model, including a brighter screen, better battery life, an upgraded chipset, and an even more compact form factor. The camera performance here is some of the best around too. Our only real complaints are that there's no charger included, and the thermal management isn't the best. Unless you're a heavy gamer though, you probably wouldn't feel it. So overall, if you're looking for a flagship with a pocketable design and excellent cameras, the Xperia 5 Mark IV earns our full recommendation. Thanks for watching guys, and see you on the next one.